So this session is on asynchronous programming in Angular. But before we move on to the actual concepts of asynchronous programming in Angular, let us understand the very basic knowledge of what asynchronous programming is. So if we take up a small example wherein I use a for loop, or before that I do a console log and print the date. And you see the date is on Saturday, June 16 hours and 36 minutes. And I do another console log. I'll paste the same thing. So this I'll make it as second, and if I save it, you see the dates coming with no difference at all. It is 16 hours 37 minutes and 21 seconds. In between I'll have a for loop. Let I equal to 1, I less than or equal to, I say 100,000, so some big digit, and I use I++. And I'll save it. So this loop simply consumes some time, but if you see again there is no major difference, so I'll increase this. I don't know how much big digit that is, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to consume some time between printing the first date and then the second date. Now this is taking good amount of time. This much of time is not required actually, so it is somewhere around 13 seconds. I'll remove 1 0 and now I'll see how much time I take. So it is only 1 second, and if I make it 1, something like this, at least we'll see a difference of, and this is going for, I'll make it as 4. A minimum of 5 seconds is enough to show, yeah, this should be good. So this loop is consuming 5 seconds of time, and that is the reason you see the difference in time is around 5 to 6 seconds. So here what I'm trying to explain is, when you have some code that consumes some amount of time, like in our case it is 5 seconds or 6 seconds, this particular line of code has to wait till the execution gets completed. Now this is where synchronous word comes in. This is a synchronous programming example. Again, the reason I'm saying this example is synchronous is because a line of code is consuming some time, that is fine, but there is another line that is waiting for this line of code to come to an end. So there is a dependency. Only when I finish this line or that line of code, only when I'm done, only in that case this line of code will come into execution. Till that time the particular line has to wait. So this is what synchronous programming is. So we understood what synchronous programming is. Now the same example I'll convert into asynchronous. So I copied all the 3 lines of code and I've commented it out. Now I'll use, so the problem we saw with synchronous programming is a particular line of code if takes some amount of time, another line of code is waiting till the execution comes to an end. So the asynchronous programming is quite opposite to that. It won't make a line of code to wait till some code is taking some amount of time. In that case if you write your code asynchronously, then no line of code will be waiting till some other code is executing. So let's make this into asynchronous now. For that, this is consuming 5 seconds of time. Now what I'll do is I'll use the set interval method, or better I use set timeout, which takes 5 seconds of time. And this particular syntax you may not understand if you're not coming from Java background, JavaScript background. So you can ignore all this syntax, because that is an asynchronous programming what I'm doing now. So the syntax might be very new to you. Ignore it for a while, and I'll do my best to explain all this syntax part as well. But this particular set timeout will take 5 seconds, and then it will console log 2, date. Now I'll make this 3, date. So if you think the output would be 1 and then 2 and then 3, then you have done a mistake. Let's see what the output is. So you see 1 and 3 the same time, 19 and 19, after 5 seconds of time you got 2. I'll reload the page again. So 1 and 3 you see coming at the same time, but 2 coming after 5 seconds of time. So this is how asynchronous programming is written. So this set timeout is a good example of asynchronous programming. And again I repeat, the difference between synchronous and asynchronous is when this code is taking 5 seconds of time for its execution, this line of code did not wait, and that is the reason why you see 1 and 3 coming at the same time, but 2 is coming after 5 seconds of time. So this set of code needs 5 seconds to complete its execution, and that particular time of execution is not making this line to wait. That is what asynchronous is. The execution happens parallelly, like you execute this and you wait for this, but this also comes into execution right after this one. So waiting will not happen, whereas in synchronous waiting will happen. So this syntax of asynchronous programming is very odd when compared to other programming languages. So to explain this in a bit detailed way, you need to learn it from the history of JavaScript, that is from callbacks and promises, and then the arrow operators. So I'll do my best to explain this in short. So this actually you can cut and call a function, and this is how we call a function in TypeScript, this dot function, and I'll define this function, and I'll paste all that code, and I don't need the arrow operator for now. Now if I save this, you don't see any change in the output. You see 21 and 21, 1 and 3, and 2 will come after 5 seconds of time. So there is no change actually, but instead of writing it this way, you see people directly writing all this code over here. Instead of having a function name as an argument, people straight away write the code over there, and they also need this particular argument list. As of now I have no arguments, but going further we'll be having some arguments in here, and this is the arrow operator. So this is how you construct an asynchronous method or write asynchronous code. So this is the list of arguments if at all you have any. If I say some argument like x, I can use x over here and I'll be using the value that is received in here. But for now we don't talk about parameters. In coming examples you will be seeing list of arguments being used. So this is the function. We just don't need the name of the function. That's it. That is the only thing got removed. The others you see as it is being written over here, and instead of the function name we are using an arrow operator. So this is how the syntax can be explained for an asynchronous programming, and this kind of syntax is what you'll be seeing from here onwards. If we use an observable, you see this. If we use HTTP methods, you see this. So you cannot escape asynchronous programming if you want to make your career in Angular, React, or any of the front-end technologies, and even Node.js. So you better try to understand all this, and the history starts from callbacks, promises. Understand them. Those come from JavaScript. If you are fine with them, then you'll easily understand this part.